Welcome back to our YouTube channel, everyone. My name is Nicola. I am the outreach specialist with REE Medical, as a lot of you may know. I am so excited today to be featuring Scott DeLuzio here. He went through our process with REE Medical, and I'm so excited, Scott, to just chat with you and ask you some questions and hear about your journey. Obviously personally, when you're in the military and your history and your story, whatever you'd love to share, as well as your experience with REE Medical. So welcome. It's so wonderful to have you today.
Well, thank you first off for having me, and thank you for everything that you guys do at REE Medical. It's really just a really great service. Having gone through the process and everything that you guys do, just really is a great benefit. So I'm glad to come on and share my experience, and hopefully help some other people along the way with my experience, and maybe help them get informed about what it is that you guys do.
Love that. Well, thank you for sharing that because I don't get to interview everybody. I wish I could. So it's so wonderful when we get to hear people's stories and what they went through and what the process was like. I know that my counterpart Nick, who also we do the Operation Onward podcast, we met you back at the MIC, the Military Influencer Conference. Was it last year? I believe
Yeah,
it was the
it
most recent
was,
one.
yeah, 2024. Yeah, so I ended up going to Mick. I had been planning on going for the last few years. Just one thing or another came up. I couldn't make it, and then this past year the stars aligned and everything worked out, and
Worked.
I was able to make it. But for the last almost 6 years now, I've hosted a podcast called Drive On Podcast, which focuses on helping military veterans with kind of a wide variety of issues that they may be dealing with: mental health related issues, physical health, and anything really connected to their military service. Because personally, have some of the people that I served with, we deployed to Afghanistan. We came back home. We all survived that deployment, which is obviously the ideal outcome,
Goodness.
but
Yes.
we came home and we started losing guys here to suicide, and to me that was just not acceptable. Obviously, one is too many, and so I wanted to do something to help not just the guys that I served with, but the uh, greater military and veteran community by providing inspirational stories or resources and things along those lines. And that's kind of where I fit in as far as the military influencer conference goes. Is I
Yeah.
wanted to go there and meet some of the other people who were doing similar things to what I was doing, and maybe share ideas and help each other out. Maybe I really don't care if anybody listens to my podcast and gets help, or if
Mhm.
they listen to somebody else's podcast and gets help.
Yeah,
Ultimately, mission accomplished if someone gets the help that they need,
absolutely.
or the inspiration or the hope, whatever it is that they are needing. If they get it from my podcast, they get it from somebody else. That to me is not relevant. I want people to get what it is that they're looking for. So I wanted to go there and really try to network with people, connect with people, and see what other people are doing. Maybe kind of help each other out and cross promote each other, maybe even, and that type of stuff. But that's where
Well,
I met you guys, the folks over at RE Medical.
just the opportunity to all be there together and see what different people are doing within the veteran community. It's
Right.
just so inspiring. And it's just so important that veterans know, what resources are available to them, right? Whether it's with
Right.
you, us, whoever. Would you mind kind of giving a little bit of background about your time in the service and where you served and your branch of service and
Yeah.
what maybe your history was like with your disability benefits?
Yeah, absolutely. So I served in the Connecticut Army National Guard. I was an infantryman, served for about 6 years. And during one of those years, I was deployed to Afghanistan. During my time, cumulative time in service, so this is not just my time deployed in Afghanistan, I had a number of issues that came up. One was hearing loss. Still have hearing loss, still have tinnitus, that ringing in the ear sound.
Yes.
That was something that occurred kinda earlier on in my service, and it was just one of those things that just persisted, and I never really did anything about it while I was serving. It was just a thing that happened, and it's not going away, and I did a little research, and then I found there's not a whole a lot out there to be done to
Yeah.
fix that. And so I said, well, what am I going to do? Go to the doctor and have them say, well, we can't help you, and waste my time and waste their time? That was kind of my mindset anyways. It's like, why bother?
We
Right.
hear that every day. Totally.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Exactly. Then I did, like I said, I deployed to Afghanistan, and my younger brother, he also was deployed to Afghanistan. And unfortunately, he was killed in action while we were over there. And so
Oh my
that
goodness.
that was an extremely difficult time for me. Not only being so far away from home and
Yeah.
family, and finding out that terrible news while I was on deployment. I was actually out on a mission at that point when I found out that news.
Scott,
During
I'm
that,
so sorry. I had no idea. Oh, that must
oh
have been so painful.
oh, incredibly, incredibly, easily worst day of my life. To rub salt in the wound or make matters worse, the unit I was with started taking fire from the village we had just come out of just a few minutes after I found out that my brother was killed. So
Oh no. Ugh.
dealing with all this whole range of emotions, and everything from grief to anger and guilt, and now fear because there's bullets flying over our
Totally.
head. And
Ugh.
um and so it definitely played a major factor in my mental health condition after
Oh,
going
I
back
mean, how
home.
could it not?
But
Absolutely.
when I came back home, I all I wanted to do was just be with my family, and I didn't want to go through all the debriefing and
Mhm.
demobilization briefings and all the stuff that you had to do. They actually, after my brother's funeral, um, the Army sent me to Indiana from Connecticut to go do my demobilization stuff, all the medical and all the
Mhm.
mental health checks and all that kind of stuff that you have to do. And they said, yeah, it's going to take about 3 days for you to do that. And that to me seemed like an excruciatingly long period of time.
Oh,
And so
totally.
when I got there, I flew through everything and I got done in a day. And um, mostly by lying through my teeth as far as mental health conditions. How are you
Yeah.
sleeping? How are you, all those things, is because I didn't, at that point, I just didn't care. I didn't
Yeah.
want to
Just wanted to get
deal
it
with
over
it.
with.
I just
Yep.
wanted to get it over with.
Yep.
Um, I have a big problem with the way the military handles, some of this stuff, because that wasn't the best solution for me. Like
Yeah.
it could have been handled differently. And as far as my friends were concerned, I was like one of the first ones to go through it. I didn't know what to expect. We
Yeah.
never talked about, like, what do you do when you get back home and the demobilization stuff? Well, that's just not
Right.
stuff that you talk about, right? And so I went through it, and I didn't really know the implications, long-term implications of
Mhm.
going through those types of things. So I just got it done quick, and
Yeah.
I didn't want to deal with anything else. But obviously, like I said, my mental health was certainly affected. Years later, I never even considered, after getting out of the military, I never even thought about filing for any disability, especially with my hearing loss or the
Yeah.
tinnitus. I None of that stuff even registered, mostly because when I did talk to a doctor in the demobilization, he asked about my hearing, and I said, "Oh yeah, I've had that ringing in my ears for years now."
Yeah.
And I explained it was from a shooting range we were on where my
Yeah.
hearing protection fell out and things happen, right? And he basically yelled at me for not making sure that the hearing protection was in before I pulled the trigger. He was, higher ranking than me, so obviously I'm just going to sit there and kind of take it. I'm sitting there taking it, and he's like, "And there's no way you'll ever get any sort of disability compensation for that, because that was 100% your fault, and you did this to yourself, and the military will never pay for any of that for you." He didn't even stop to listen to how any of this happened. Like, it was an accident.
Right.
And so I'm sitting there with really no knowledge of the disability claim process or anything like
Mhm.
that. Just assuming, well, hey, I'll never get any sort of disability for this because of what he's saying. It's my fault, and they just won't do it. So I'd never even crossed my mind to even file for any sort of disability for years. It wasn't until a friend of the family who served in Vietnam said that he was getting disability compensation for hearing loss and tinnitus, basically the same situation that I had. as far as I was concerned, like that was a non-issue. Like it wasn't even something that happened. So I looked into it and turns out, hey, turns out this guy was wrong. And not only was his bedside manner terrible, his advice was
No
terrible as
kidding.
well. I was like, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? They say no. I'm going to go apply for it and
Great.
go through the whole process. And so I did that all on my own. I got rated for, the hearing loss and the tinnitus and everything like that. It was an excruciatingly long process though.
How long, if you don't mind me asking, like
Yeah,
did
I want to
from
say,
beginning to end until you finally got your rating? Like,
I think the time that I put my intent to file in
yep.
to the time that I got it, it was close to a year.
Wow.
And
Okay. That like
I
before
know
you
other
heard
people have had.
anything or any movement or anything?
The only thing that happened in that time period was I had an exam. They called me
Okay.
in to go to the
Right.
VA
CMP
and
exam. Yep.
do that
Totally.
exam. Exactly. And so that was the only thing that happened. I didn't get any communication from anyone and any follow-up or anything. I would go onto the VA website and they have like the status tracker that
Right.
you can keep track of. I kept
Which makes
every
no
day.
sense half of the time. Like,
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And it's like it jumps from like one status and like
yes,
skips
it
three
goes to
and
like step one to step three, and then step
yeah.
one, and then step seven, and step five, and you're like,
And
what?
like, is this a tennis match? We're going back and
Yes,
forth constantly. And so
exactly.
like I'd log in like almost daily and refreshing the page, like did they update
Yep.
anything? And it never seemed like it was moving. It was like it stalled, like my paperwork got lost behind a file cabinet somewhere or
Yeah.
something. I had no idea. And I also had no idea who to call, like who
Mhm.
to send an email to. I didn't know. So I was just like, you know what? I'll just leave it out there. And if they get to it, they get to it.
Yeah. Whatever
And
happens, happens. Yep.
exactly. And so that's kind of just been my attitude throughout this whole
Mhm.
process. After that finally got approved, I was pretty happy that it got approved.
Yeah. Oh, for
Um,
sure. Especially
and
waiting that long, it's
yeah,
like you'll
especially
take anything at that point.
with that kind of weight. And it had been years since I had gotten out of the military. I
Right.
wasn't even sure that I was able to apply at that point. And so they connected it to my service just based on the job that I had, my MOS being an
Okay.
infantryman. They said that, well, we I guess it was a presumptive condition that they
Mhm.
assumed basically that because I'm around loud things that I'm
Yeah.
probably gonna have some hearing loss at some point. So that's how that got approved. Because like I said, I never went to medical or anything like that to get it all
Mhm.
documented and the way you should. And so in a way I kind of got lucky that way. In the meantime, I had been going to therapist for years for the mental health issues that I was talking
Of
about.
course.
Um, and again, it never occurred to me to file for any sort of disability for that either. A few years ago, I was like, well, I went through this process once. I'll go through it again, and I'll just figure it out, and I'll put together all the paperwork and everything that I need to do, and I'll just file it on my own. And I did, and it actually went through way quicker. I think the
Good.
decision came through in about a month, give or take, from the
Amazing.
time that I filed, which I wasn't even bothering to check at that point because I figured I probably got like at least 8 or 9 months before I need to start worrying
Right.
about them
Right.
them even looking at it. Then all of a sudden I have the decision letter and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is
You're
amazing.
like, what's this?
But it wasn't quite the rating that I thought I
Hmm.
should have, but I was at that point, I was also still happy that it got approved so quick, and I was like,
Right. You
"Well,
got something.
I got
Right.
something, so it's
Yeah,
better than nothing." And
for
then I
sure.
just kind of forgot about it because I didn't really know how to go through the whole like if it was an appeal process or do I file again? Like I don't know
Right.
I didn't know anything about that whole process. And then I met you guys at Mick and started talking about my experience, my scenario, everything that was going on, and I think it was Nick that said, you can file for an increase. I was
Hmm.
like, really? Like, how does that
You're like,
work?
what?
And
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, and that's kind of like what we do.
Yeah.
We can help you
Yeah.
with that part of what you guys do, anyways.
Right.
And so I was like, well, yeah, I'm definitely interested to find out more about that because, like I said, I was happy enough, but I kind of in the back of my head, I was like, I honestly think it should be a different rating. Yeah, you guys kind of walked me through the whole process, and it was super easy. You guys, you know, gave me form to fill out, helped with all that, making sure that all the T's were crossed and I's were dotted, and all of the things that needed to be done. You kind of just gave it a second set of eyes looking at it to make sure that I didn't miss anything. I didn't check any boxes that I shouldn't have checked, or needed to check, or anything. Like, things were just so much easier because I had an expert on my side who was able to kind of just look at what I was doing and saying, does this actually make sense? You guys helped with setting up the provider to, have a medical opinion, associated with my filing and everything. So, and I may not be using all the correct terms and words and
No,
everything, but that's where you guys come in, because I
yeah,
didn't need to worry
that's where
about
we help.
that stuff. Is you guys came in and you guys gave that guidance as far as like what I needed to do and who I needed to see and talk to, and all the things that needed to be done. I didn't really have to worry about that stuff. I just needed to show up, make the appointment and show up, and
Totally.
do that kind of stuff. And that to me was such a huge relief, because I didn't have to stress about all of this stuff. And then, especially after filing again,
Oh yeah.
thinking to myself, gee, maybe it's taking such a long time because I screwed something up, or
Mhm.
I didn't cross that T or dot that I, or, check that box I should have checked, or whatever. Now it's being held up because of some clerical error that I screwed up on my end,
Right.
because, I'm not as well versed as you guys are. So
Absolutely.
that was a huge relief for me.
Oh my gosh. Well, just really, I want to pause for a second because there's so much that you said that
Sure.
just resonates, for me personally with veterans that I talk to all day long, as well as maybe veterans that are watching and for your friends. Kind of going back to what you were saying about the one experience you had in the military, being yelled at. I think sometimes stuff like that sticks with us, right?
Yeah.
It's like you may forget kind of what they said, or you may remember it, but that feeling of like, okay, I'm never going to be able to do this now. It's like
Yeah.
that clearly made an impact on you, obviously in not a positive way, and enough to where you were like, I'm never going to touch this. There's nothing I can do about it. It hurts my heart to hear that, because I hear that so much, right? Like, well, this happened in my career and this happened and I was told this and this. There's so much information out there, and so much of it is just not true, or it's
Right.
not the full truth of it and just little bits and pieces. But that's what veterans like hear and take away from it. And so many times they're afraid to like ask those questions or do do the research or advocate for yourself, right? Or you do the research and you're being told, five different things for one thing, right? And you're
Hmm.
like, okay, make this make sense because it doesn't.
Sure.
So I'm grateful that you did have another veteran. You said it was a Vietnam veteran, right? That said to you, wait a minute, hold on. Yes, you actually can,
Right.
because that's a huge part of what I'm so passionate about, is just educating veterans on what is available to them, right? Like, even
Sure.
if they don't work with our company or go through our service, just knowing what is available to them and what services, right? Whether they want to do the own option, free option, or they want to choose a service like REE Medical. I just want them to know what is available to them, because your story, as personal as it is to you, I have heard it so many times of
Hmm.
just, I didn't even know that this option was an option for me.
Yeah. When you have somebody like that who can, hopefully that's what I'm doing right now to someone who might be listening. It's say, like, you might think that, hey, maybe this doesn't qualify, or somebody else has it worse than me, so I'm not going to apply for disability because I don't want to
Totally.
take away from somebody else. Like, that's not how it works at
Which is
all.
not true. I'm
I
going to put
know.
that out there. There
That's why
is
I wanted to bring
no
that up. Yeah.
Yes, there is no lack of funds resource in that. So if you are
Yeah.
watching and you've heard that, that is not true.
Exactly.
Absolutely not.
It's like, if you have, whatever rating of your knees or your back
Mhm.
or your mental health, or, whatever, and you're like, well, yeah, but there's guys who lost legs and arms and, other issues like that, and they should get it, but not me.
Mhm.
Mindset shift, because that was sort of my
Totally.
mindset too, is like, I don't need it that bad.
Mhm.
So, somebody else I don't want to take away from that somebody else who maybe needs it more than me. That's another thing that I've heard from people that kind of just scare
Mhm.
them away. They're like, I feel like I'm just getting scammed because, I have
Totally.
50% for this and 50% for this, but I don't get 100%. Like, what gives? Just know that, like, the math isn't the same math that you learned in elementary school, right? It's a different kind of math. It actually does make sense. You're not actually getting
Yeah,
scammed. And so,
exactly.
it's strange. It's a
It
little
looks
maybe foreign.
scary. It
Exactly.
sounds scary, but once you
But
get the hang of it.
also, to that point, if you're getting a certain percentage and you're like, wait, this doesn't make sense. If you have somebody on your side, like you guys, on your team, if you have somebody
Right.
there who you can then send a question to, be like, explain this to me, because this just
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to me. Why does 50 plus 50 not equal 100? Um,
Right.
or
That's a
whatever
good
the
point.
the
Very good
numbers are,
point.
so somebody can help explain that to you and make it make sense, so that way you don't feel like you're getting scammed. So they can say, you know what, you're good, you're getting what you're being told that you should be getting, and it may seem complicated, but here's how it actually works. And that could be a nice benefit too.
Absolutely. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head right there. Because I think, again, it goes back to just the education and
Yeah.
veterans not feeling informed and just not knowing. Well, I have to know. So, when you went through the process, you went through everything, you waited, how long when you did submit the paperwork, the documentation, did you finally receive your rating? And when you did receive your rating, what was that like?
Yeah, so I want to say it was the end of October, sometime that
Okay.
I filed, and I received the rating mid-February. So
Okay.
just a few months.
So
It was a little bit,
4-ish months. Yeah.
yeah, not as long as the first time. All things considered, I think it was still relatively quick, to get that done.
Okay.
Um, Honestly, I was getting to the point where I was starting to say to myself, we're going to be on another 9 months to a year journey here, and I really wasn't expecting much. I was going from that initial stage within that first month or so, where I was like checking almost daily to see, like, okay,
Yeah.
where are we in the steps, hoping that it was like the same as that one time where it was like within a month. And but then it was just by chance I happened to open it up the day that it got approved, and the app on my phone, I opened up
Like, what? This
the thing,
is
and like all of a sudden, like the number changed, like it moved up, and I was like, it must have been like, I hadn't even
yeah.
gotten the physical, like, letter in the
The
mail.
letter yet.
uh,
Yep.
I hadn't gotten that at that point. It was just the update in the app, and I was like, oh, it's done finally.
What's happening?
This is kind of cool. And I think the first thing I did was, besides telling my wife that it went through, is I reached out to you guys and said, yeah, I think I sent you an email and,
You
and
did. Yes.
said, hey,
You
it's
did.
approved, and I'm happy with the outcome, and my enthusiasm for it was a lot higher, because I had such low expectations at
Well,
that in that moment,
yeah.
because
And
I was like, it's probably gonna be a few more months, but I'll check it anyways. And then I was like, oh, well, that's a nice
hold on
surprise.
a second.
Yeah. So,
Oh man. Well,
um,
first of all, congratulations. That
thank
is
you.
huge. Obviously, there is the free route, doing it on your own, which
Hmm.
we absolutely advocate for. We are all for veterans going through that process. We've had a lot of veterans that have tried it on their own and got that rating that they were super happy about. And we love that. For anybody that maybe is kind of like you, had sort of gone through it a couple times and maybe getting sort of the same outcome and needing that extra assistance, what would your advice be for them? Whether, like I said, they are considering RE or something else, what would
Sure.
your advice be?
The advice that I would have is, think about your entire military service. Well, actually, let's take a step back. If you're still in the military, get things documented. Like,
Yes,
everything.
go to medical,
Go to
regardless of what
medical.
people say or
I
make
don't
fun of you.
care.
Go.
I know people do that, and it happens in the military all the time. They're like, oh,
Yes.
you're going, and you're just going to, sham, or whatever.
No,
Like, who cares? Like, just
do
go
it.
do it. Take an an appointment. Go take the afternoon. Whatever you got to do. Go take care of that stuff. Get it documented, because it makes the
Mhm.
whole process so much easier after you get out. Um,
Yes, great
whether
advice.
whether you're thinking about filing for any sort of disability or not, get everything documented. Every bump and every scrape. You might think it's insignificant, but get it documented, so that way, should it turn into something bigger down the line, you have it documented.
Hmm.
And if you don't have it documented, it's kind of and a lot of times it's kind of as if it just didn't happen in the
Mhm.
military at
Oh,
all,
it is. Well,
you know?
when it comes down to applying for your benefits, exactly.
Yeah,
If you don't have it documented, it's very hard to try and get that connected. So,
exactly. So
yes.
first step, get it documented if you're still in. If you're out, unless you're well versed in the VA disability benefits and all the processes, and maybe you've worked in some admin role or something, and you've kind of figured out all of this stuff on your own. In which case, good on you. That's not where I wanted to spend my time to do all that research and figure all that stuff out. But if that's you, by all means, go and do it on your own. It's 100% a great option. If that's not you, highly recommend the services with REE Medical, because, like I said, you have somebody in your corner who's there to help you out. I know there's other options that are out there through VSOs and things like that. Those are good options as well. Where I think REE Medical stands out is the service that I received through REE Medical was very personalized service, where I had your phone number. I texted you the day that I got the thing, right? It was a very personalized service, and some people may not care about that. May just want to say, hey, give me what I need. I'm going to send it off, and then I'm done with you. And I don't want to deal with that. But I like that service because I knew that if there was a problem, I had somebody I can reach out to. I could call you, I could text you, I could email you with any problems that I had along the way, and there was somebody there. You helped set up medical appointments for that side of things, where I didn't have to go figure out who do I need to go see, and then now I got to pay that person out of pocket and all that. It was all kind of included in the service. And yes, there's a fee to that service, but if you think about, it's not tied to percentage increases or anything like that. It's not like you take a percentage of the increase that I ended up getting. It's all up front. And so, right up front, you say how much it is, and if that's an acceptable number to you, then, just like any other transaction that you make, any other business that you might go into, if you don't want to spend $7 for a coffee at Starbucks, well, don't go to Starbucks and buy a $7 coffee. You go someplace else or make it at home. You have other options, right? And that's the
Right.
thing I liked about this is REE Medical was another option. Yes, sure, there's a financial component involved. You do have to pay you guys to do some of the work that you guys do, but I didn't have to worry about any of this stuff. That was worth its weight in gold, because I didn't have to think about the all the what ifs. What if I did this? What if I didn't do that? What, all the things that I didn't know could
Right.
come back and bite me too. And you guys have already gone through these processes. You know how these things work.
Yeah.
You can help guide me through it. And at the end of the day, it resulted in a ratings increase, which easily is going to cover, whatever that initial fee. Depending on where you're at with your rating,
Mhm.
that that initial ratings increase will
Mhm.
easily cover whatever it
Right.
is. You might be at
Oh, yeah.
0%, and you might be going up to 70, 80, 90% in that initial
Absolutely.
thing. And you might have more than enough to cover that, just
Mhm.
in that initial amount. So that's where I was like, you know what? The amount just seems like a no-brainer. It seems like if I can get that increase, now that increase is mine. It's not like you guys are attached to that increase where I'm
No.
I'm now paying you from now until forever, until that rating goes, changes or something. I'm not tied locked into that, and there are other companies out there who are like that,
Yeah.
and that always sounded off to me, where
Mhm.
it's like they're going to take a percentage of
Anyone
my
that's
my
wanting to
rate. Yeah,
charge you 10, $15,000, like, please,
I
no.
know. Yeah, I and
Please do not know.
I've heard of other people too who've gone through
Yes.
companies like that, and
Yes.
the amount that you just mentioned is not
No.
uncommon from them, where yeah, they end up spending $10,000-15,000 with some of these
Yes.
companies, and that to me is just insane.
That's
And
not right. It's
eh,
not right and it's not fair. And
no,
that's also any back pay that you might receive from the VA, that is yours. That
yeah,
is
right,
that is what you're entitled to. That is what you are owed. That is what you deserve. Nobody should be touching that or taking that away from you. I think, like you said, that personal and having somebody there, right? Like whether it's your navigator, right? Or just calling in and wanting an update or talking to me or whatever, there
Mhm.
is somebody that's going to be there to provide that extra support. Whereas if you are on your own, like you mentioned, you don't really have that, and that could be what people prefer, and that's great.
Yep.
But I think a lot of veterans do like that little extra, hey, that comfort of like, I'm very confused. Can I call you? Can I email you? Can you help me make this make sense?
Just to put it into a military context, right? If you're in a squad and you're, looking to either go to a school or advance somewhat in your military career, you might go and ask somebody who's already been there and gone through that school, or advanced
Totally.
it that to that position. You go and talk to that person to find out more information to
Yeah,
help get you through whatever it is that you're trying to get through. Why wouldn't you do the same thing now?
absolutely.
Go talk to somebody who's already been through the process. Got to imagine, tons of people that you have helped that have gone through these processes. So you've seen some of the pitfalls and know what
Oh,
to
yeah,
avoid, and you've seen some of the success stories, and you know how to duplicate that and do that all over again. And so, like, yeah, why wouldn't we just want to do more of that? Let's
absolutely.
make this as easy as possible as we can for ourselves, right? The knowing that there's that choice for you.
Exactly.
Nobody's putting a gun to your head and saying you need to
No.
go through REE Medical or any
Exactly, and
other,
and that's
you
how
know
it should be, right?
yeah,
Like, that's how it should be. At the end of the day, like, it is your guys' choice
right.
what you wanna do with the process. I wanna wrap up. We've covered so many good topics today. I'm, like, so grateful for your time. But really quick with your podcast, I'll put it in the information below too, where veterans can check you out. It mind just giving me a little brief, like, how that kinda came about, what inspired you
Yeah.
to do that? Obviously, everything with what you went through personally, but even more so, and then where people can find you.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, exactly. My personal experience was certainly a big piece of it. Losing some of my friends after coming back home, that was a big piece of it. And recognizing that it wasn't just the people that I served with that were having trouble. It was across the entire veteran community, and it was like there was just so many people who seemed to be wandering around hopeless and not knowing where to turn for resources or support or getting inspiration or anything like that. So I was like, let's figure it out and do it. And so, yeah, I started the podcast. Like I said, it's almost 6 years now that I've been doing the podcast. And, if you want to
Incredible.
go to driveonpodcast.com, that you can find all the information about it there. It has all the episodes listed out. Anywhere that you listen to podcasts on YouTube, we're on social media, Drive On
Okay.
Podcast, but just, do a search for Drive On, or you'll be able to find it on any of those
Yeah, and
platforms.
we'll put all the info below. So,
Excellent.
yes, and
Thank
then
you.
if people wanna contact you, is that just the best way, just
Yeah.
through one of your social media platforms? Okay,
Yeah, either
perfect,
through the social media or on the website, there's a contact form, and you can fill it out there.
perfect.
So,
Oh my goodness. Well, Scott, thank you so much for your time today. I swear this has been one of my favorite interviews. You're so great. We've covered so much wonderful information, helpful information. I really hope that any veterans that are listening, or friends or family or anything, will feel inspired by this and your story. So, thank you so much for sharing. This has been so wonderful.
yeah, you bet. It's been a great time. Thank you.
Great. And we'll chat with you soon.
Sounds great.
Congrats.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.